Morning.
Morning.
We left off yesterday, I think we were at the video, camera 5 from 19 Oxford. So I'm going to play that with respect to Mr. Caneiro's vehicle returning back from Colts Neck. Now, we've already seen 308 Green Grove, right? Down the driveway. White, Porsche Macan, black stripe, right? Passes 30 Tilton. We saw the flickering of the lights at 30 Tilton in the direction of 27 Tilton. So now, from 19 Oxford, from the rear, from a camera, as you can see here, we probably never expected to see what we saw. I mean, because when you look at the vantage point here, we're talking about a very small area, right? Where you capture just a portion of that 27 Tilton driveway. Because you remember from the daylight video, there's those trees there. But by the grace of God, we actually see that light right there. As you'll recall, remember when we saw the pictures of the garage, the two garage bays of 27 Tilton? There's 3 lights, like 3 sconces. One on the left, one in the middle between the doors, one on the right. Okay? So what we're looking at here, right here, kind of like where we saw that flash of fire previously, that's the light. Okay, so we're going to play that. So now we've seen the white Porsche Macan, the one being driven by one person and one person alone. The person coming back with the jeans, with the gloves, with the scarf, with the gun, with the barrel in it, not yet out of it. He's pulled back in his own driveway. Now, we talk about timing of the fire. Remember, we talked about Heather Capp and Jonathan Harrington and when we can actually see the fire start. Now, we're going to see the video starts at 4:54. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because we know that that fire is going to start. It's now 4:56:32. And remember, these are just lights on the back of the house. It's over by the garage, right? What we're going to see, remember, we have 4 top windows when we look at the daytime. We got a window over here, we got a window here, window here, window here. And then that 4th window is right about here. The gas line and the basement window would be just barely outside of that frame. There, 4:57, in about 10 seconds, we see that gas-fed fire, right? Because that basement window is right next to the gas meter. There's accelerant and the gas line, right? We got the gas from the gas can, we got the accelerant, and then we have the gas line right next to it. So we know exactly when that fire takes off, right? Because it's going to flash here, right? And then we'll see from the next video, I believe it's the next video, when we look back at the driveway, you can see the flash, and you see the flash, but then it comes down, right? So that's the initial, the emanation, the beginning of that fire at 27 Tilton. So now we're going to see the same thing, 4:57, from the driveway view. We're going to see that flash, and then we're going to see it come down. Running it from 4:56 and 40 seconds. You see there's obviously some activity outside here, some lights on. go. Move it again. Well, this is going to be about 2 minutes before Mr. Caneiro pulls the Porsche Cayenne out of the garage. There, 4:57 and 10 seconds. That fire lights up the rear of 27 Tilden. We start to see Dr. Gould's back deck, right? Right here. And here is kind of like where that tree line is, and the driveway is right here. So think about, in some ways, how lucky we got to actually capture that driveway, right? I mean, there's no way, even if he set up the cameras at Dr. Gould's, that he ever would have realized that that camera is going to pick up his car at 207 and 408 and the fire starting. It's just unfathomable to believe that we catch that little area here, right? See? Fire now. 4:57, 53. It flashed over for about 40 seconds, and then it subsides. Same way we saw it on camera 7, right? So now it's 4:59, 50. We're looking at camera 5 again with that small area over here, right? That driveway. We're going to see the Cayenne being pulled out of the garage by Mr. Caneiro. Here we go. He's backing it out, you know, because there's 2 cars there, right, by the one bay, and then he's got the opening by the garage, by the bay closest to Tilden Drive. So now he backs up, right, and then he pulls out forward the same way he pulled out at 207. So again, we're just looking at that car backing up, right? It's going to back up and essentially do a K-turn, right? It's the way you got to get out of that driveway, the way he's got to get that car out of that driveway. It's 5 o'clock and 5 seconds. The car's now heading out to Tilden. The car's going to park on Tilden Drive. And think about where that car parked on Tilden Drive, right? It actually, he pulls out, we don't see it on the video, he pulls out and then he ultimately pulls it on the street right in the area of Cap and Harrington's house, right? So now, Miss Cap didn't specifically tell you that was Paul Caneiro's car, but that's Paul Caneiro's car that she saw in the street between Harrington's driveway and her house. Same place it was, remember, when Chris Sorrentino was running up to the front door, hey, everybody's out of the house. Paul Caneiro's car. You just got to put it into context, because sometimes when people watch things in the dark, they don't know what they're watching. Sometimes it takes a combination of evidence to kind of put it together. You know, they said a lot yesterday that we can't show you Paul Caneiro in the car. We can't show you Paul Caneiro in the house at 15 Willowbrook, right? We don't see him running down or out of the house at, you know, let's say 3:42, 3:43 in the morning in Colts Neck. But the only reason we can't show you that is because of him. Right? He cut the power in Colts Neck. He cut his own cameras. So when we talk about did they find houses to the west on Tilden Drive, and you know they didn't look or they didn't document, he didn't show you any cameras from the west side of Tilden, the other way out, right? You saw all those maps and photos and everything. But like any camera that would have been over there that wasn't would have shown us likely nothing, because nobody goes that way. But it would have showed you the same exact things that you could have saw from the 4 cameras outside of 27 Tilden Drive. Like, it's a little hard to understand how we can be blamed for not having more footage when the best footage, the best evidence would have been his own cameras that he chose to shut off. And the only reason, ladies and gentlemen, you shut those cameras off is because you don't want anyone to see what you're about to do, what you did, and what you did after you did. It's extremely telling. There is no good reason, zero, in this world why somebody shuts off their cameras at 1:28 and 1:31 and then leaves the house for 2 hours in the middle of the night. His car, he's driving it. You know, we talk about being framed, right? And all the things that we didn't find. And we talked about how no matter who did it, they didn't leave a lot of evidence in the car, right? In the Porsche Macan. Like there's no blood except for the residue or the odor that's detected by the canine Creed. Whoever was in that car, and I would submit to you that there is no doubt in this world that it was Mr. Caneiro. But the one little piece of evidence that was left in there that wouldn't have been all that noticeable, actually, Lieutenant Catalona didn't even seize it the first day when he searched the car. Remember when he takes the photos on the driveway? This was found the next day. It's a little piece of a black nitrile glove. Okay? Like, okay. Right? Consistent with the burnt gloves by the gas can, right? Consistent with all these gloves here. It's actually not that many, it's 6. But like if you're trying to frame someone, you're trying to set someone up, first of all, I said it already, you're probably gonna try to leave some blood in that car, right? I mean, it makes sense. You're probably gonna leave the barrel in the gun, it makes sense. You're probably gonna put the backpack in the murder car, not in your wife's car. But if you're trying to set someone up, this is the best you can do? Leave a little piece of a broken glove, probably from when he tore it off and threw it in the back of the car, in the storage area, exactly where K9 Creed hit. I mean, that's not getting set up, ladies and gentlemen. That's just trying your best to not be sloppy, but still being just a little bit sloppy because of what he just did and the effect. No matter what you think of Mr. Caneiro, the effect that what he did to those little kids had to have had on him. Had to have. Now again, just point of reference, maybe it's a little thing, maybe it's not. But the car pulling out at 207 here, out of the driveway, pulls out exactly the same way that he pulled. He pulled the Cayenne out at 5 o'clock. Maybe it's a little thing, maybe it's not. It's just another little thing that adds up with the gloves and the DNA and the ballistics and the cameras being on. And the cameras actually being on, showing you turning them off, right? I mean, that's important. Now, we talk about some of the defense witnesses, particularly now we referenced the cameras, so let's talk about Dr. Gould here, okay? Dr. Gould, obviously friends with Mr. Caneiro. He told you that Mr. Caneiro, which you knew already, he's tech savvy, that's what he does for a living. He talked about, helping out with electricity and helping the guy who did the wiring with the lights and helping Keith out and all the work that Paul did at Keith's house. All the things that Keith relied upon, and part of the reason why he's collecting that salary from Square One and Ecostar. He told you about Paul being a gunsmith, and I'm not going to belabor that. I'm not going to reiterate the fact that I told you that he owned these guns lawfully. We're not asking you to hold that against him. But there's a reason you heard about the guns, because Dr. Gould told you he can take them apart, he's a gunsmith, he cleans them, he does all this stuff. Like, that's exactly consistent with bop, 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 bop. Bop. Even Dr. Gould eventually got curious, right? He eventually got curious. I asked him, did you watch him before you gave the videos, before you gave them to the police? And he had it. But at some point, he actually had to bring him back because not all the footage was on him, so he actually had to bring it back. I think it was Detective Melody. But I asked him, did you eventually watch it? And he was like, yeah. And he even saw Paul leaving, 2 a.m., Paul returning at 4 a.m. And I asked him, because we were looking at a photo, right? I showed him the photo of Sophia and Jesse and Jennifer and Keith. And I asked him about Keith's hair, and I asked him about Paul, who's got hair. Keith was bald. And then I asked him about Corey, just because, why not, right? Brought up Corey, right? They want to talk about Corey. What's Corey look like? We'll talk about why that's important later. I shouldn't have to prove that to you, ladies and gentlemen. He has nothing to do with this. Nothing.
Objection.
Come on up. You know what, it's overruled. It's definitely not an objectionable thing. Go ahead.
Again, all this goes to the fact is that they told you Mr. Caneiro was cooperative, how he talked to the police at the scene, and he was spoken to by several of the ocean patrolmen. We're really just trying to figure out what happened. Why is there a fire here? We're just trying to figure it out. And, he's telling them that he wakes up, he's sleeping, right? He's talking about, and even his daughter said it, that he was upstairs all night, not really being the family man that he was described as. He's just up in his bedroom from, 4:30 that day until all of a sudden a fire he wakes up to. It's just all inconsistent with the evidence that you're hearing in this case. Now, when we talk about the background, the financial motive, the build-up with Paul and Keith, again, I'm not standing here saying that it should have been enough, right? Murder doesn't always or rarely make sense. But, did we follow the evidence or did we ignore evidence? Did we try to see the communications, between Paul and Keith? Did we just stop after we heard that devastating phone call between Keith and Paul at 6:05 p.m. on November 19th, 2018? About 9 hours before the murder? No. You heard from Detective Migliosi. He read these messages, and I'm not gonna read them all for you. I believe you'll have them. But we need to understand kind of where this all starts. And you've all heard about April 2018. A little hard to read here, but what we're seeing is April 11th, Wednesday, April 11th, 2018. And this is basically Paul getting caught stealing from the trust, right? Keith was obviously trying to inquire. You can see Mr. Artigas and Mr. Weinstein are included because they're trying to figure it out. Yes, it was brought up yesterday, and it's true. There were times when the trust was not funded properly, right? There are times with businesses where maybe Keith didn't have the ability to throw $7,800 a quarter to the trust account. That happened. But what they didn't say to you is that, and I said it yesterday, he's got one job as the trustee. One job. This is not like managing real estate assets and all this kind of stuff. He's got a life insurance policy. Pay the premium. That's all he had to do. And listen, if Keith doesn't fund it, like in past years, if he doesn't give the $7,800 that quarter to the TD trust account, then no one is blaming Mr. Caneiro for not, no one is saying he has to pay it out of his own pocket. That's not the point. It's just, when the money comes to the TD trust account, that bank account, just click transfer. Think he can handle that. He knows his password. You heard it yesterday. The only time he ever forgot his password of the 19 times when he transferred the money, not to Canada Life, but to himself, he never forgot his password, right? Never. It's like shutting off your cameras. It's like, Keith, I don't remember my password. Why do you think Keith's so frustrated? Keith's like, I'll even log in, just give me the password. But he can't give him the password. Take it for what it's worth. Take it for what it's worth. But Keith wanted to know where the hell the money was. And he couldn't get an answer. And he said, I don't know exactly what Mr. Paul Caneiro was saying on the other end, but we know by context that Keith is saying, you got 2 hours, let me know. You know, he's trying to be a little bit sympathetic, bless you. He's trying to be a little bit like flexible, right? Despite the months and months of thefts and where the hell is the money? He's giving him 2 hours. And he says, 8 o'clock, Paul. But you never heard anything about any other communication, right? There's no other communication in this world ever for the rest of time, except for Keith texting Paul at 3:14 through 3:18, because despite his anger and his frustration, justifiable frustration and anger, he still needs Paul. But here, what's interesting about this is like, it's an admission that I took the money, right? It's an admission. Remember, he says I selected the wrong payee. He says it went to my daughter's student loans or whatever. Like, Paul's admitting that he stole from his brother, right? Sorry for all the confusion. I've had my head up my ass. But he's still not accepting responsibility, right? He's still saying that I accidentally took your money. I sent it to the wrong page. Now, we know that's not true, right? Because you saw the bank records. Detective Bassender came in here at length and testified about all this stuff. He didn't select the wrong page. He paid himself. And there's a lot of talk about him paying it back and all that stuff, but like, the reality is, he didn't pay it back. It just went to the business, and then Keith transferred it back to the trust account, and then he took it again. Because you will hear, if you want to call it paying back, if you want to say he reimbursed, whatever, were there times when he stole in the past and reimbursed? Sure. Does it make it right? I mean, he didn't tell Keith he was stealing before he paid it back. He didn't ask the beneficiaries, Jen, Jesse, and Sophia, obviously not Jesse and Sophia, but he didn't tell Jen, hey, I'm taking a loan, because that's what he would have needed to do, according to Mr. Cardenas, in order to take a loan. These are not loans. It's just straight up theft. And again, I said it yesterday, but when the judge ultimately charges you on the law and he reads to you about theft and misappropriation, and on the verdict sheet you're going to have some choices on theft, the allegation is $78,000. But playing with the money and looking at certain things and where certain things went in a family business, we're going to ask you to find between $500,000 and $75,000, not above $75,000. That's absolutely no issue whatsoever. But it's not the point. It's not about the money. It's about the trust. Like, think about 1999. Keith Caneiro decides, I want to create an irrevocable trust. And in order to do that, you need a trustee, right? And it's kind of ironic that it's so obvious what a trustee is, right? It's someone that you trust with your money and with the obligation of doing these things. But again, just transfer the money. Just click transfer. Send an e-bill or whatever the hell you have to do at TD Bank. But he knows how to do it because he's done it in the past. He knows how to transfer money because he transfers it to the TD Bank trust account to himself. It's not that complicated. But that trust ultimately, over time, it eroded. It started to go in a lot of different directions. And ultimately, you saw that trust was gone as of 6 o'clock on November 19th. But we need to look a little further. Look at the messages. And here is essentially, this is just like it's the same time, April 11, 2018. It's just a little more of a complete message, and it's maybe a little more of a direct message to Paul, or from Paul to Keith. And he says, what they're talking about is, yes, I went to bed early, I was shot, I figured out why there are payments missing. I selected the wrong payee from my list and made them to Pacific Lending, the servicer for student loans, instead of Pacific Life. Now, you saw the the bank records and the summaries and the charts, that's not true. What he did was, he made them to himself. He's just telling Keith that I made a mistake instead of saying I stole from you. I mean, he says, I changed the name of the account to the trust, so this will not happen again while this account is still open. Well, he had Canada Life in his bill pay for TD Bank a long time before April 11, 2018. We go on. I'm selling off some of my investments today, and once the transfer is completed, I will make a single payment plus interest to the trust policy. I'm sorry about that, and we'll make it right. Let me know when you create a new trust account with Bonnie, that's Jennifer's sister, so we can set up the direct deposit from payroll. I can pay the balance of the existing trust account and then close it. I didn't sleep most of the night trying to sort this out. There's nothing to sort out. He stole from his brother. That's what you need to sort out. Is it bothering him? I don't know. I don't know. It didn't bother him enough that, let's just assume they're correct, that he paid the money back in April, at the end of April. Let's just assume that's not like just a circular payment and not a reimbursement. Or let's assume it's a reimbursement. The reality, though, is as you're going to see in the next couple slides, and you heard the testimony, obviously you've all been paying attention. That has been very clear. Is that after this mishap, after I had my head up my ass, I'm going to make it right, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what he does is makes exactly 0 payments to Canada Life for the rest of 2019. What he does is just continue to take, culminating with the last theft, the last transfer from the trust account to himself on November 19th, 2018. Remorse? No. Just like preservation, like, let me just get Keith off my back for a little while, right? He's stupid. That's really what he's saying. Keith's not going to figure it out because he can't access the trust account, because that's the way it's supposed to be. It's really, Keith, I'm sorry. Keith was upset about all this, but sorry, Keith. Unfortunately, you don't have control anymore. He's got control, but it doesn't mean he can steal. It doesn't mean he can commingle. It doesn't mean he can take loans without the beneficiary's consent. Okay? He's talking about them changing the beneficiary. You heard some of that stuff. There was some talk about making Bonnie the trustee. I'm sure Keith wishes that actually happened, but it might not have been as easy as Mr. Cardenas said to you. Well, it's not that easy. So it never happened. I mean, I wish it did, because maybe we wouldn't be here. Okay? It didn't happen, but he knew that Keith was kind of done. But he continues. Paid nothing back. Doesn't make another transfer to Canada Life ever in the history of the world. And he tries now to cover his tracks by doctoring the bank records. Which, let's just remember this as we talked about thematically yesterday about how investigations work. Like, we're talking about bank records here that, like, we don't get, like, immediately, right? We don't just, like, go, hey, there's a trust account, give me the bank records. What happens is the detectives that are investigating this, Detective Bassender, who was doing the financial investigation, Detective Petrozzillo, and Detective Zarillo, they met with Steve Weinstein, right? He's the accountant for Paul, he's the accountant for Keith, he's the accountant for the businesses, and ultimately they sit down, and Weinstein's saying, yeah, Paul would send me the bank records, right, like an accountant. Because remember, part of the trust is like, there's like gift tax implications, and Weinstein said, I got to get the records so I can, because Keith was able to write, I don't understand it all. I'm not going to claim to. But basically, Keith had to account for gift payments. Basically, the transfer of the payroll he's allowed to account for it with the IRS and his taxes as like gifts, right? You have an allotment every year, whatever. And so Steve Weinstein, the accountant, had to like reconcile all that, right? And he's telling the detectives, yeah, Paul, Paul's making these payments to Canada Life. Here's the records, this and that. Ambassador's just gotten the records from TD Bank, and she's like, what the hell's going on here? I got the real TD Bank records, and then I got the ones that Weinstein got from Paul Caneiro. and they look different, right? Like, doctoring bank records is no different than shutting off your camera at 1:28 in the morning. It's just not. It's the same thing. It's just like hindering an investigation, okay? It's just trying to be smarter than everyone else. I would submit to you that you heard a lot of testimony about the special bond between Keith and Paul, and, you know, Keith was Paul's person and all this stuff. I don't know why I heard that so many times. But, like, I submit to you, based upon the evidence in this case, particularly this evidence, that he thought Keith was stupid. And he thought that this was his operation, despite Keith owning 90% of the business. Because we look here, we look at April, okay? And we see right here on April 9th, 2009, there is a transfer showing up from TD Bank to Canada Life Assurance, right? Okay, now we're going to look over here at May. And we're going to see on May 1, these are the records that Mr. Weinstein got, right? And it says 501, May 1st, TD Bank bill pay, $5,000, Canada Life Assurance Company. I don't know how well you can see that. But the first record that he ever gave to Steve Weinstein has the word assurance spelled wrong. ASSUARANCE. His first, literally the first doctoring of records right here has the company name spelled wrong. Okay, let's keep going. So now we're looking to compare May, what we just talked about with the misspelling over here, to the real bank records from TD Bank. And what we're seeing is not that it went to Canada Life misspelled assurance company, 5,000. 5,000 went to TD Bank checking account ending in 3837. I'm sure you remember that that's Paul Caneiro's checking account at TD Bank. We go to June 1st of 2018. Fake records, real records. Here we see 618, Mr. Weinstein's looking at this, and he says, this time actually, Mr. Caneiro spelled assurance right, okay? But it shows that he transfers $7,500 to Canada Life, right? Weinstein takes a look at Detective Bassner's records over here, and he sees $7,500, same date, right, 6/18, June 18th, and it says, not Canada Life, but Paul Caneiro's bank account. And when we look here, we talk about funding, and I said it a few moments ago, but I don't know if you could do the math, but you look at all these transfers in, J. Martin payroll, Ecostar payroll. That's Keith's payroll going to the trust account. So, I mean, you could do the math, you're gonna have this. And I don't know exactly if it adds up, but all we're saying is that any money that Keith put in that account for Canada Life was supposed to go to Canada Life. If it wasn't 7,800 and it was only 7,200, then put 7,200 in it. Don't take it. Oh, well, you know, he only gave me 7,200. He's $600 short, so I'll just take it myself. That doesn't work. Now we go to July. Again, we see on the fake records, well, this part's real. J. Martin, Ecostar, all these transfers in. Periodically, the payroll, 500, 600, 500, 600, etc. Then Mr. Caneiro allegedly pays $4,500 to Canada Life. But when we look at the real records, lo and behold, that $4,500 goes from the trust account to Paul Caneiro's account. August, we see on the left side, doctored records, right? And you see these check marks, it's actually Weinstein. He was like going through it and like, as an accountant, you know, he's been working with this business for years and he knows their books and everything, but like, he's trusting Paul You know, like he gave him the records. It shows it's going to Canada Life, right? Shows it's going to Canada Life. Shows it's going to Canada Life. But it's really going to Paul Caneiro. Paul Caneiro. Paul Caneiro. And Steve Weinstein's not getting the records from TD Bank. He has no interest in that account. He's relying on Paul Caneiro, the brother, the trustee, to provide the records. It's not until Keith, Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia are dead that Steve Weinstein has any way to know that this is just a perpetration of fraud by Paul Caneiro on his brother. You know, like, had Keith had these records, and Steve had these records, and Ron Artigas had these records, there wouldn't have been all that scrambling on November 18th, 2018. You know, Keith, you heard it at 4 o'clock, like, he's actually trying to give Paul the benefit of the doubt. Like, what's going on? I've been on the phone all day trying to figure it out with Canada Life. And the problem is that, like, Keith and Ron and Steve, like, they're not the trustee. Like, you might be the accountant, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to give you the records. You heard at one point, I think, Artigas had to call and actually say he was Paul Caneiro because he was just trying to figure it out. But this is what's going on. This is what's going on. Again, you know, just in August, we see all this money that's supposed to be going to Canada Life, and it's not. And is it a big deal? Is it a ton of money? No, it's not. But it's about trust. Did he trust him? Was he sick of him? No, they're both sick of each other. Keith's sick of getting stolen from, and Paul's sick of having to deal with, in his mind, this BS from Keith. As if, like, Keith shouldn't have just had some faith that the money he's setting aside for his kids is just going to be there. Now, if there were times when it wasn't funded, so be it. That's not Paul Caneiro's fault. It's probably not Keith Caneiro's fault either, but it is. I mean, he's the one funding it. But it doesn't make theft right. And again, when we talk about a lot of the evidence that you heard recently with who Paul Caneiro is or who he was, it's just not consistent with the investigation. I'm not saying that his family or his friends knew about this. They didn't know he was doctoring bank records. They didn't know he was stealing from Keith. But it's the reality. It's the investigation. And it's not tunnel vision. It just is following the evidence. And the evidence is right here. Okay, little things. Bank records. Cameras getting shut off. DNA. Ballistics. Your niece's blood in your basement. It's easy to say, oh, well, DNA can't tell you how it got there. Well, we would have known how it was going to get there if he didn't shut the cameras off. Like, you don't need the DNA people to tell you that, you know, you don't know how Sophia's blood got on there. I mean, we do. I mean, she did have 17 sharp force injuries, and his genes has blood all over them. But again, the whole argument, like, we don't know how DNA gets there. We don't know how ballistics gets there. Well, in reality, we do. It's just that forensic scientists can't tell you. They're not involved. They get a pair of genes, right? They get a pair of genes, and their job is to say, let's cut this, let's swab this, and let's see what we get. The investigation, the detectives, the evidence tells you how it got there. The reason it's there, her hair on the scarf, God help me. Blood on the jeans, blood on the gloves. You know how it got there. You know how it got there. There's no explanation, okay? So to argue we don't know how it got there, the only person to blame for not knowing, or let's just say not knowing, we know. We just didn't see because we couldn't see him put the bag in the car. We couldn't see him take the clothes off and throw them underneath the pile. We couldn't see him starting the fire and then the other fire. Because those very cameras were shut off. If I say it once, if I say it 10 times, I'm sorry. But like, when we look at where the cameras pointed and what they would have shown, it is so obvious why they were shut off. So September, we're going to see that the tensions start to build in September. September, We got the doctored records, 1,000 going to Canada Life, 300 to Canada Life, 1,000 to Canada Life, 1,300 to Canada Life. And then we see the reality. Transfer to Paul's bank account, transfer to Paul's bank account, transfer to the joint bank account of Paul and Susan, which she had no idea, and transfer to Paul's bank account. This is all Paul Caneiro. Zero respect. And I know I said it once yesterday. I'll kick myself. I don't make sure it's clear. When he's taking, when I talk about this taking, this transfer from TD Trust to his own bank account or the joint bank account, he's not stealing from Keith. He's stealing from Jennifer, from Jesse, from Sophia. So, if anyone could do this to their family, to do what we saw in those horrific pictures, isn't it more likely that it's the guy who's already stealing from those very people? Like, I'm not saying that justifies it. I'm just saying that it's not unfathomable that he doesn't really have that special bond that you heard about. Like, you know, Sophia or Jesse's on his back in the pool, but he's stealing from them. He's stealing from their future. And he's hiding it. He's covering it up. But he got caught. He got caught. But he only got caught after the murders. No one really caught him, except for April. He got caught, but he lied about it. The investigation into the fire at 27 Tilden, into the murders at 15 Willowbrook, really just unveiled the fact that he was stealing from his brother, and he was trying to cover it up. We talk about the escalation. These are Google Cloud messages from Keith to Paul and Paul to Keith, etc. Keith saying, this is total bullshit. You have time to email me when you need money for your insurance. Remember, he asked if he could put the $5,000 and change for the car insurance on the business, right? Because that wasn't normally covered by the business. And this is the conversation about that. Keith is saying, this is total bullshit. You have time to email me when you need money for your insurance, but you don't have time to follow up with me when I'm fucking dealing with an issue that affects our only large client, that being Doris Duke. Don't put your insurance on my card. I'll find my own fucking employee and put my own fucker advertisement out. Keith, question regarding the insurance payment. So now he's like, he's pissed because he's got to pay the insurance on the company, right? $5,000, like, and I think at some point he says, I actually did it for you last year too. But basically Keith's like, now Keith's kind of stepping back, and he's kind of going back into his, all right, let me try to help my brother, right? Let me see what I can do. And he's basically saying, why can't we pay it monthly, right? Why do we need to put $5,000 on the credit card? And Paul says, interestingly, despite the $60,000 of disposable income he has at that time frame, he's saying, because it's late and I don't have the cash right now, I had to pay for Katie's admissions and I was not expecting that. And then Paul says, I went to pay it and the check bounced. And he says, I'm late and I received a cancellation notice. So they're not going to take that monthly payment, the insurance. They want the whole thing. They've already told him they're going to cancel his car insurance. So he's asking Keith for help, which is fine. But let's just not say that he's got all this money lying around, okay? Despite the renovations and all that stuff. Keith's trying to help him out, but he's saying, I'm done paying you anything for a salary. You are on your own. And Keith says, I just put $150K into this business. Your kids are done with college. I need to start saving for my kids' education. Unfortunately, no, he didn't. Unfortunately, he didn't have to save for his kids' education because they're never here. They're no longer here. Now they're talking about September 17th. They're talking about Ecostar, the sale, right? Listen, they both went back and forth. I'm not asking you to, we're not giving you the rosy version just because it sounds great. Okay, they're back and forth about Ecostar. But I think what you see from these messages and from the evidence you heard is ultimately that, like, Keith realized that, like, first of all, Ecostar wasn't making a lot of money, okay? They're 50-50 in Ecostar, but Ecostar's, like, not really making a ton of money. Like, they got a lot of employees, they're doing pest control. It's not a cash cow. It's not $125,000 a month that they're getting from Doris Duke. Okay, like, that's money, okay? Like, that's even paying people, they're getting money from that. Except remember, Keith's getting 90, Paul's getting 10, because it's Keith's company. But they go back and forth with Ecostar. If we can get $850 for Ecostar versus, so they said he wanted to wait for $1 million. It's not exactly what he said. If we can get $850 for Ecostar versus $1 million at the end of the year, I'll wait. Otherwise, let's settle. I'm done, I want out. If I could get a decent job in the marketplace, I would just fucking walk. We know he was trying to do that. Now, Doris Duke, I'm gonna talk about it in a minute. But like, we're not saying that, like, he didn't want Doris Duke to renew. I mean, even at some of those proposals where it went from like $125,000 a month to like $96,000 a month, like, Keith will take that. And let's be clear, like, Keith could have a job and Square One could still exist. Like, he's not going to Doris Duke every day and doing the wiring and the IT work. Like, he's the boss. Like, they'll take the $95,000 a month if they're willing to do it. We'll talk about what Ms. Basu said about that ultimately. But let's continue with Ecostar, because we know if I could get a decent job in the marketplace, I would just fucking walk. Now, we know from Ben Paolucci that, like, Keith is legitimately looking for jobs in the marketplace. The guy's got an MBA from Columbia. He's run a business for like 30 years. And the guy's got some qualifications. Ben's like, hey, there's probably some great jobs for you at AWS, like the cloud services of Amazon. And that's what Keith's doing like 3 nights before he dies. He's looking for jobs. You are my brother. I'll help you out as best I can, but I'm not doing this. I mean, if you could ever, obviously I never met Keith Caneiro or Jennifer or Jesse or Sophia. But like, if you could ever kind of sum up what Keith Caneiro stood for, what the evidence in this case showed you, is you are my brother and I'll help you out as best I can. But like, you can't do it anymore. You can't carry it. Keith's got to worry, he's got young kids. They're not even in high school yet. They're not even close to college. They're trying to figure it out. Like, I got to worry about myself. You heard all the conversations, like, maybe I'll just like, sell Ecostar, I'll put that money towards my mortgage. I need a big mortgage, but like, he's thinking about just like dumping it in there, trying to get rid of a mortgage so that even if he has to take a job for like less money, he'd be able to make it work. Like, he's thinking about that stuff, which is exactly what Mr. Paul Caneiro is not doing. Okay? We continue. I know that, Paul, that is if Square One is a going concern. If it isn't, if I lose my only big client, we are done. Which is the reality. I mean, they lost Doris Duke, we know that, but they lost Doris Duke. Primarily, we know it was done because of what happened here. I mean, they finished out December, but then the company, Doris Duke wasn't bringing them back. I would suspect, and I would submit to you, that Doris Duke was not bringing them back anyway. If you listen to Ms. Basu's testimony, she wanted cheaper. She wanted a lot cheaper, and they did good work. He was good. Keith was good. The company, Rob Block, they were good. They did good work, but they were not cheap. $125,000 a month for a nonprofit. They were looking for that AWS style type treatment, right? They were looking for that cheaper, that cloud-based. Okay, it was where the times were going. And Keith and Paul, they're both smart. Keith knew where the market was going. I think you heard that. Like, everybody kind of knew that, like, the modern day IT stuff wasn't going to always be exactly the same. And kind of what they offered wasn't necessarily what everybody was looking for, especially for $125,000 a month. Keith, I need to start thinking about paying for my kids' college. We know that. And putting away money for retirement. I don't have insurance policies to pay me if I don't work. You heard that yesterday. I mean, Keith doesn't have that crutch, right? Paul does, but when you look at the income, the disability wasn't going to be enough for this guy. At least it wasn't going to be enough to satisfy the 3 Porsches and the Tiffany Restoration Hardware. And the two trips to Colombia in 2018. And 800 whatever dollars for the Audi that he was paying, in addition to the 3 Porsches and the Jeep. This guy's got big expenses, and it's starting to crumble. That house of cards that Ms. Wallace told you about in opening, we stand by that based upon the evidence in this case. We're not gonna over-dramatize it, but like, it's reality. You have that, so figure out a way to restructure things to live within that. He's trying to be like Paul, cut down the expenses, deal with it, plan for the future, but he doesn't want to do that. I'll do what I need to do to ensure my kids will be able to afford college without giving them loans, which is exactly what you did. Hey, can you check with Block to see where he is with that information? So this is November 5th. So this is like the build up to Keith having to go meet with Doris Duke and Guli Basu, right? So basically, Keith's trying to get together the information, because they're asking questions and stuff, so he can go and present to Doris Duke and say, like, here's what I got, here are the options. You saw those 3 emails with the proposals. The 6-year option or 4 years or 2 years, like, if I know anything based upon what Ms. Basu said and the evidence in this case, if they were gonna get that contract back from Doris Duke, maybe it was for a year, maybe. That woman who testified in here was not signing a 6-year contract with Square One. I think that if you recall that testimony, that's abundantly clear. You're asking Rob Block, who you heard from. I also want to see if we can do something to get cash from Ecostar. So he's bringing it up again, right? Like, he wants to get rid of Ecostar. I mean, he's not going to sell it for $200,000, but if he gets a decent number, he wants out. It's just aggravation. In case Duke doesn't renew, okay, Paul says rest, we can talk tomorrow. Keith, I'm thinking that if shit really goes sideways, I cash out my 401k and insurance and get rid of my mortgage. I just said that. That's exactly what he was looking to do. Even if I lose money doing that. So he's not really concerned. He just wants to be able to get a job. Like, he just wants a quote unquote, like, this is not to disparage the family business, but he just wants to go to work every day and actually maybe report to someone who's responsible and just kind of like do his job and go home. Get a paycheck and go home. Not have to worry about payroll and where it's going and whether it's getting to where it's supposed to be going. Like, he wants a little more simplicity in life, it seems like. Paul says relax. That's what he always seems to say. Yes, he's calm. Is he level-headed? I submit he's not. But he's calm, right? Because he's trying to keep Keith at bay because he doesn't want Keith digging, okay? He doesn't want him digging because when Keith digs, bad things happen for Paul Caneiro, and ultimately, bad things happen for Keith and his family. Let me see if we can get a call going with the people interested in Ecostar tomorrow. Even if it's 900, I would do it. Paul, fucking relax. He doesn't want to get rid of the business because, let's just say 800, right? He gets 400,000, right? He owes money to the IRS. He owes money to credit cards and blah, 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 blah. Like, that money is like, he's better off with an Ecostar credit card than he is with 400,000. That's just gonna go like this. It's gonna be gone in weeks. Okay, so understand that. Understand the expenses. It's not just like, sounds great, right? Hey, we sell the business, I get 4, you get 4. Okay, but, there's money that needs to go elsewhere immediately. So it's not gonna get the job done. He needs that piggy bank. Go to sleep. We don't need to do this. We don't need to do this tomorrow. We don't know, Paul says we don't know what the future is. Well, that never a truer statement was made. And Paul Caneiro says we don't know what the future is. I know what the future is, Keith says. They're going to cut to 2 people. I'm going to have to kill the new guy that we just hired. When he says kill, he's talking about fire the guy they just hired. Again, 90-10. Doris Duke, I'll keep it brief. You saw that Keith, I think it was November 13th, he meets with Guli Basu and Peter Simmons, who's like the CEO or LO or whatever it is. And he basically says, all right, after the meeting, like, they discuss Cooley says they discuss finance and that we want it cheaper, we want it less. They don't want less people. They don't want Square One to go from 3 to 2 techs that are in the office every day. They just want it cheaper. And the only way Keith can really make it cheaper in his mind is to go to having 2 people go there every day as opposed to 3, because obviously it now brings his cost down, so that they can go to like 96 from 125, right? The salary savings. But like when you heard Ms. Bassel testify, they got those 3 proposals, and she said, we didn't make a decision yet, but I would submit to you based upon her testimony, that salary savings was not gonna get the job done. And maybe it's easier because now we're getting pretty close to 2019. Maybe it's easy to just run out that contract. Because remember, the contract wasn't actually expiring. It just, they had an option to cancel, that is, Duke had an option to cancel the contract at the end of 2018. So like, it could have gone another year. But that wouldn't have changed that Keith's applying for jobs and all those different things that he's trying to do. And he's trying to sell Ecostar. Like, he wants to just be like one of us who just goes to work every day and doesn't have to deal with like the pressures and the BS, so to speak, of running a business. Now, again, I'm not going to belabor it. You heard the testimony. You've seen the charts. You're going to have them. You know, they made it sound like, okay, these are his expenses. This is what he makes. And he's going to get more in a little while from disability. Okay? The reality is, when you look at the bank records, when he's taking money from the trust, it's because he's in the negative. You know, that insurance check, it bounced. Like, I'm not saying if he thought rationally, he couldn't have figured it out. But this is a guy who's got 3 Porsches in the driveway. Like, he's not looking to cut his expenses. He doesn't want to do that. Overdrafts, return payments, withdrawals during that time. Now, September 2018, Paul's financial issues that we've seen in this case, and you'll have 9-3. Paul complains about not being properly reimbursed for his cars. Like, he's going to Tiffany Rivera, the business manager, and he's saying, you know, ever since we got the different car, I think it was the Cayenne, whatever it was, I think the reimbursables are wrong. So it's like, he's complaining that, like, he's not getting enough money for the car reimbursables, as if, like, he should even be getting them as a 10% owner in the business. September 11th, he received a failed payment notice for Susan Caneiro's iPhone. Basically, like, he didn't pay the bill. 9/11, Paul considers taking out another, and you heard about several, 401k loans from Susan Caneiro. Now, she doesn't know. 9/12, he receives a missed Audi payment notice. 9/14 to 9/16, he gets an email regarding that Allstate payment. That's the one for the car insurance. Again, September 16th, Paul asked Keith if he could put his auto insurance on the company card. We saw that. September, it's not going well. Show that he struggles all the way to the end until that final withdrawal, final theft of $1,200 from the trust account when his balance was in the negative. Are we ignoring things, or are we following the evidence? Let's look at, first we'll just, the trust. I think we've talked about the trust enough. Obviously, the trust, he's a contingent beneficiary. Corey is as well. Paul knew, Corey didn't. Just talk about the trust in the context of how Mr. Caneiro looked at it.
Yeah, and that's what that trust is going to let you do, because the trust account is going to give us access to everything. It allows, you know, basically unlocks all the other stuff. With, you know, getting everything back, you know, sorted out.
Like, in January of 2019, he's talking to his wife. He's basically explaining the trust and how it unlocks other stuff and investments or God knows what. But like, Keith, Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia are dead, and he's talking about the trust account. like family man, loves his brother, special bond. Keith's dead. This is the conversation.
Yeah. And that's what that trust is getting.
2018, January 2nd takes 1,000. January 10th takes 500. 22nd takes 2,500. February takes 2,200. May takes 5,000. Prior to taking this, he's in the negative. May 15th, he takes a 401k distribution of $43,000. June 18th, he takes $7,500 from the TD Trust account to his own account, and $43 went fast because his balance on June 18th, prior to taking this money, is back down to $4,000. July, he takes $4,500. August 3rd, takes $4,000. Prior to him taking the $4,000 from the TD Trust account, he's in the negative. And then he couldn't make his mortgage payment. August 17th, takes $2,500. His balance is once again low prior to taking the money. August 28th, he takes $1,000. Prior to taking this, his balance is in the negative. He needs this trust account, ladies and gentlemen. It's not always massive amounts of money, but it's every time he can't pay something else, he goes, click, and he just takes it from Keith. Not alone, it's just theft. Repeated theft. September 4th, he takes 1,000. Prior to this, his balance was low. September 4th, he takes 300. Prior to taking this, the balance was $9. September 7th, makes a $5,200 and change payment to Allstate, but he's way in the negative. Allstate payment is returned for insufficient funds. Obviously, there wasn't enough money there to make that payment. That's why he had to ask Keith. 9/10, he makes $765 payment for the Audi, but he's in the negative. 9/11, Audi payment is returned, insufficient funds. The next couple days, there's 5 overdraft fees. September 12th, transfers $2,500 from the Ecostar operating account to to get out of the negative. September 13, transferred $500 from Ecostar. Sorry, I just said that. 9/14 pays $1,265 IRS bill and is in the negative again. September 17, takes $1,300. Prior to that, he's in the negative, and then he's back in the negative on the same day. September 18th, transfers $1,000 from Ecostar. It's not necessarily his money. September 25th to 26th, receives 2 disability payments. October, balances in the negative again on October 3rd. The next day, he takes $1,500. The next day, he's back in the negative. October 9th, he takes $2,000. October 9th, balance is back in the negative. There's an overdraft fee for insufficient funds on Discovery student loan. October 10th, he makes a mobile deposit of $4,000. October 15th, he takes $1,200. On the 17th, he's back in the negative. The 18th, he transfers $700 from the Ecostar operating account. So why would he not want to sell Ecostar? Is it not clear by looking at this? Because if Ecostar's gone, yeah, he has that $400,000 or whatever that dissipates really quickly. But he can't just transfer every time he needs money. 10/24, he receives a disability payment. 10/29, he takes $2,000. November 8th, he takes $1,000. November 15th, he takes $1,300. Prior to that, the balance was low. The next day, he's in the negative. And he stays there until the final transfer from the trust on November 19th, 2018. The same day Keith's trying to figure it out, he is stealing $1,200 from the TD Trust. We talked about the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. One of the, like we said with the theft, one of the options that you'll have when I submit you find Mr. Caneiro guilty of theft, there's over 75, and then there's like 500 to 75,000. Conservatively, there's no doubt we'll ask you to find in that range. Continue to follow the evidence. Now we get to, now we know Mr. Caneiro stole $1,200 from his brother. Keith doesn't know this on November 19th, 2018. But now we go to these phone calls, the final build-up, so to speak, of what is going to happen in about just under 12 hours. Keith Caneiro, this is the beginning of his final 12 hours on this earth.
Counter Life is telling me they haven't been receiving money except in April. That doesn't make any sense. Counter Life is saying they haven't received money since April. I know it's not true. I need you to send me the statement ASAP, because I'm on the phone with them all day already. I need to access the money. Fine. Do you have it scanned somewhere? Do you have it scanned in Evernote? Can I log into it and grab it? Do you have the online access? I'll just go online and see it. You don't have the online access? If you could just see a way to send me the password, I'll do the research myself. Thanks.
Now, 6:05, a couple hours later. You know, Keith tried Paul, so then he tries the house. He speaks to Susan briefly and says, I need to talk to Keith. And I need to talk to Paul. Now, Paul Caneiro calls back his brother.
Hey, Steve, how are you? Sorry, they're calling the house line. I'm looking for Paul. I know he's sleeping, but I need to talk to him. Yeah, I got them. Thanks. Yeah, please. Call me on my mobile. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. Bye. Hey, I just spent the last hour and a half on the phone with the insurance company. They're saying they haven't received any money and that they took a loan against my account and they're taking another one in October, which is just in October. I need to know, show me where you're sending the checks in online. You're writing them out online. I need to know where they're going. I need you to wake up, Paul, and do it. Short of you being dead, I need to see your stuff. You need to log into your account then. You log into the TV account. Give me the log into the TV account. Your TV account, you don't know your TV login. Go find it and give it to me. I need to see it now, Paul. I need to see it. I need to see it now. I need it. I understand, Paul. I understand that. I just spent half the day. Paul, I'm telling you, I need it. I need it. I need it. Give me the fucking login, Paul. Give me the login, Paul. Paul, just give me the login so I can see where the money went. They get on your computer and tell me where the money went. Paul, somebody else could read it to you there. I need to know where that money went. What's a little while, Paul? I understand you're saying you need to wake the fuck up, Paul. Paul, I'm telling you, I've just spent half the day looking for this. I need to know where it went. Paul. Paul. Are you sure it went to the right place this time? You have cash checks? You have cash checks? Paul. I hear what you're saying. Paul, I'm worried. I need to know where it went. All right, an hour or two. An hour or two. An hour or two, Paul. That means by 8 o'clock.
Keith believed him. He believed the excuse from April about paying the wrong payee accidentally. He still trusts his brother. I need to know it went to the right place this time, right? After that conversation, I said it before, does Keith's phone, does the defendant's phone, any video or anything show that Keith got a call back, he got an email, he got an answer, Mr. Caneiro looked at it? There's nothing. 1 to 2 hours. 8 o'clock, Paul. Nothing. He's up in his room. Paul Caneiro's up in his room. Playing with the laser. 6 hour. Nothing. He does nothing to rectify it. No text, no call. He can't, he doesn't pay it back, right? He can't do that. He doesn't have the money to do that. Just admit it. Admit it, and we're not here. Admit it to your brother. Do something about it. And we're not here. You're not here. Keith, Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia are. Terrible reason to kill the whole family. But only one person has any reason to kill that family, and it's him. To the negative. And when we talk about Miss Wallace, and I won't belabor, but Miss Wallace said it best in openings when she talks about those 3 income streams that Mr. Caneiro has. He's got the payroll, right? He's getting paid. His family, he and his family are getting paid by Square One and Ecostar. He's got the disability, and then he's got the piggy bank taken from Keith. Those are the steady income streams in 17 and 18. Okay? If they get rid of Ecostar, he doesn't have that. If Miss Basu and Peter Simmons from Doris Duke say, you got a year or you don't have anything, we're moving on. He's got nothing but the disability. And it's not enough for the way he lives. It's just not enough. And he's not willing to make it work. Also, though, when we talk about motive, right, we know there's that $1.5 million from the trust account, right? And you really haven't heard us standing here. Ms. Wallace explained it in opening. We're not saying that, like, he killed Jesse, Sophia, Jennifer, and Keith for $1.5 million. It was That's part of it. I'd submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that had to be the only reason that he went back inside that house, or went inside that house. Because that's gotta be the motivation to go in and get rid of Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia. He killed his brother. I mean, again, I said it yesterday, not justifying, but saying he purposely, knowingly killed his brother. And it doesn't make it right. None of this makes anything right. But like, that's why you heard all for 5 weeks, you heard about why it's so believable how he could kill his brother. It's so believable. Just understand the context and the build up and the jealousy and the, I'm not doing this for you, Keith, anymore. I'm not coming over and fixing this, fixing that. You can understand that. But the only reason after you execute your brother, that you make that conscious decision to walk inside that house, that dark house, betray that trust, is because the money's inside, right? The only way he gets anything, he just doesn't get anything other than, he doesn't even get anything from the businesses. Presumably it would have gone to Jennifer and the family, right? They're 50%, they're 90%. Only motivation to go in there is money. Now, does it make sense? I don't know. I struggle. Why? Why would he kill Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia? Why? The only thing you could think is that it's $1.5 million reasons why. He's already killed his brother. He's going the rest of the way because he knows it's how he benefits. But assume for 1 second, maybe Jennifer came out and caught him, and that's why he had to do what he had to do, right? Jennifer walked out because she heard the gunshots, runs back inside, game on, right? Kids come down because they hear the commotion. I don't know what the answer is, to be quite frank with you. I don't know. I can't get inside Mr. Caneiro's house. All I know is that he did it. He did it. Because the evidence tells you he did it. I wish I could come up with a reason. I have no reason. I could never come up with a reason to tell you why he did what he did to the kids. I don't know what to tell you. But he did it. He did it. Because the evidence tells you he did it. This shutting cameras off and DNA transfer, and God only knows why my niece's and nephew's DNA is on my jeans in my basement. You know, why would I lead police there? Maybe tried to destroy it and he just didn't do a good job. But he did it. But he also, to kind of close that loop, what Ms. Wallace told you was it was less about what he stood to gain and than more about what he stood to lose, like the desperation and the frustration and the, Keith, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm sick of you owning 90%. Because he's not just losing the 3 steady streams, the theft, the disability, and the payroll. He's losing health insurance. He's losing these credit cards, $143,000 in 17, $120,000 in 2018. Man, that's not $50,000 of disposable income. That's reality. So he stood to lose. They told you the motive isn't good and all that kind of stuff, but it's good for Corey, but it's not good for Paul. But like, for Paul, it's not just about that he stood to gain 50%. It's also about all that stuff that he would have lost had Keith's plans kind of come full circle and had Keith realized that his brother is stealing from him. No, Keith has an MBA. Paul steals from Keith. And again, understand when we talk about why he did what he did and why I submit to you that the evidence is going to tell you that the only verdicts in this case will be guilty. The finances is not something that just played itself out. That's not why he was arrested. That's not why he was charged with murders. He was charged with murders because early on, we're talking before Bodie, we're talking before StarMix, right? You know, all that stuff that was sent, and Ms. Danielle Reed came in here and testified. Like, before that, the DNA went to the state police lab, right? And we got results, right? We got Sophia's DNA on the knife, on the handle, right? And we got Sophia's DNA on the jeans. We're talking about that random match probability. I'd submit to you that random match probability, likelihood ratios, they're just two different ways to explain the importance of DNA. I mean, when you're going to say that like 49 billion is not like probative, that it's actually the defendant's blood on those genes or DNA on those genes, like you're trying hard to justify what looks really bad, okay? But remember, we had that DNA before we had all the other DNA. We had DNA. You heard it. The first witness, Chris Simkoviak. I think I actually said it right. And then we also had Chris Clayton with the ballistics. You know, because think about what that means. So the financial stuff it's a buildup, right? It's a process, getting records and trying to understand the context of two guys who own businesses together, you know, and they have a lot of expenses, and they have clients, and they have to figure it out. That's why we had to meet with the accountant and the insurance guy. You know, they're sophisticated insurance people. I mean, he's got 3 disability insurance policies. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Just follow the evidence. And again, when we talk about the finance and the motive and stuff like that, and whether or not it justifies anything, like, think about the fact that within hours of the investigation, Lieutenant Catalona searches the Porsche Cayenne, Susan Carroll's car, at the Ocean Township Police Department. The car he never thought he was going to have to drive to the police department. Never thought was going to be searched. It's the barrel. Like, I don't care how much he loves the backpack. I don't care how much it's an extension of his wallet. But you want to have some stuff in your backpack? Sure, okay. It's actually a tactical backpack. I work with a lot of detectives who carry basically the same bag. And they have stuff in there, okay? But like, that? Silencers over there? I'm not going to belabor it. He didn't use it. We told you that. We told you he didn't use a silencer. It's interesting to know why he's got a silencer in his backpack. It's because, really, in reality, he doesn't want it to be with all the guns that are lawfully registered, right? And the rifles and stuff, the gun cleaning supplies, and the, you know, the hanging targets, practice shooting. Because the silencer looks bad. Like, there's no reason to have a silencer. He didn't use it. He didn't need it. We know it. And Kapoor heard it from 2 miles away, right? The gunshots. Remember, he's fleeing that scene, thinking to himself, man, we're in Colts Neck. It's wide open. Somebody's going to hear that. Like, you got to assume someone's calling 911 when there's 6 gunshots in the middle of the night. I mean, you have to. That's why he's sloppy. That's why he got the hell out of there quickly. And that's why he went back. But, like, before we talk about motive, ladies and gentlemen, why is he taking this out of the 6 hour? If you're getting set up, you're not taking this out. Now, Chris Clayton, he figured it out. It wasn't hard for him to figure it out. He test fired this barrel. He test fired the barrel that was in the 6 hour as they found it in the locked metal cabinet in his basement. And he figured it out. The barrel from the gun that was in the cabinet, just in case they found it, that barrel doesn't match. This isn't like, oh, they're both 6 hours, et cetera, like all the ammunition's gonna match. No, it's not like that. That's not what Clayton told you. 1 6 hour could have been manufactured seconds after the one before it. And the ballistics will never match. Bullets, gun, they only link. Bullet matches to 1 barrel. 1 barrel because it's fired out of here. Let's just keep that in context. This, ladies and gentlemen, this killed Keith Caneiro. This likely shot Jesse Caneiro. You heard the testimony. Dr. Thomas said she couldn't conclusively say it, but it appeared to display patterns consistent with the gunshot wound through the chin, like a graze wound. And you know we found the bullet in the kitchen a few feet away from where Jesse was. So, context, investigation. Step, 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 step. Build up. Not zeroing in. You know, if this didn't match, or the gun didn't match the projectiles, I don't know, do we maybe look somewhere else? If the DNA didn't come back to him, and he didn't come back to his niece in the basement, do we look somewhere else? Yes. But like, should we be stupid? Or should we follow the evidence? Again, we're talking about the backpack. We just talked about the barrel was in there. He's got savings bonds. He's got Colombian currency. He's got a driver's license. He's got his passport. You saw the pictures, it's here. His passport. The Audi key. Got every card in his wallet, right? Including, it's not in his wallet like in his pants. It's in a backpack in his backyard, in his back seat. Like, how is someone else getting this driver's license into that backpack with the barrel and the silencer and the passport and the money and the savings bond? You're gonna set him up, you picked the wrong car. It doesn't make any sense. You're putting that stuff in the Macan, no doubt, if you're trying to set someone up. Not in this car. This is where they found the barrel. It's in a pinch bag, you see. There's the barrel, paper towels. And interestingly, too, when you look at those paper towels, when you look at the photos from where the DNA is found with the jeans and the scarf and the shirt, all that kind of stuff, you see paper towels. Like, he wraps this in paper towels. The same way there was paper towels in that pile. Silencer. This is where we found the gun. Right here. Ammunition right here. Fiocchi's down there. You know, after we find the barrel, and after we find the gun, then we get some DNA results, and it's starting to look like we're not zeroing in on the wrong guy, right? Just following the evidence. This is where it's found. This is the jeans, and there's one pair of jeans. There's one pair of jeans. Obviously, look at the tearing on the jeans. I mean, there's a portion of these jeans that are missing. We talked about it yesterday. This is what's in the bag, because that bag was sent to the state police for testing too. I mean, they saw that. They didn't say these are different jeans, let's test them. They saw that they were one pair of jeans. It's the blood. Blood in the gloves right here. Talk about transfer. You want to talk about transfer? Like, could some of that blood got onto the glove? The blood from the jeans got onto the glove? Of course, it's right there. But could there have already been blood on the gloves? Like, why are they in this pile? Because he's using these gloves to try not to leave DNA, to try not to leave fingerprints. Okay, like, this is like, you know, there's a lot of questions. Did detective vote? Did he check that door? You know, did he swab it? There's blood everywhere. There's not blood everywhere. You're going to have all the photos. It's a fire scene. There's a bunch of blood in the kitchen, which Detective Cordoma explained about. You know, he's an expert in blood spatter analysis. But there's not a lot of blood in the kitchen, and there, you know, we get criticized because they only swab 4 areas. But like, you can't swab every single place where there's blood. State police, I think you heard, they're not going to test it all for sure. That's for sure. They took an area here, an area here, an area there, and an area here. And you know what you found? Sophia. You found Jesse's by the handprint, right? Very visible handprint on the south side of the kitchen island. And then you go around to where Jesse's found. And then, I said it yesterday, but you find that blood on the kick plate on the bottom of the stainless steel cabinets. And man, we really just figured it would be Jesse's, right? And maybe it took them so long because they were just trying to piece this together. Like, what can we do to kind of explain one day to a jury what happened in that kitchen. And lo and behold, that testing, that area is Jesse. We know they found him dead there. He's lying on the ground. He's up against the cabinet. He's got the blood there. But who would have thought that Sophia's blood's there? Like she's trying to help her brother. She's bleeding. There's no other explanation other than like, Jesse. And then for some reason, she's bleeding in the kitchen. And she decides, I'm sure she didn't want to decide, to run away. And she goes upstairs. And that's where she's left. That's where she's incapacitated to the extent that she can't get the hell out of that house. I'd submit to you that that's that stab wound through the face into the brain. And that's why she had all the smoke. She had all the soot. She was 49% carboxyhemoglobin. Dr. Zane told you, and I'm not going to belabor this, you know she suffered. Horrible. 10% you might get nauseous, right? 40% you could die. 49% is what she had. Her cause of death was not just, like it wasn't, be clear, what Dr. Zane told you is the cause of death. It wasn't a contributing cause. It was the cause of death was sharp force injuries and smoke inhalation. You know, the special bond with Jesse didn't have the stab wound to his face. I don't know. Passport, bag, Paul's credit cards. The knife he had, the bag, the flare. I don't know. I mean, again, the cameras are shut off, so I don't know if he's walking around like this with a spare phone that's in. He's got a ton of spare phones in his bag. I don't know if he used it. I can't tell you. We lost the ability to tell you certain things because of the choices that the defendant made to make it difficult or simply impossible to see what happened. The Audi key, some other keys, his college applications. Miss Restrepo told you about that. Her daughter's college applications. Passport. Caneiro. It kind of leads you to the question that I'm sure, I suspect you're all asking is like, where was Paul Caneiro going to go? Like, there's no other explanation. And I don't know, I'm not saying he had a plan. He didn't really have a lot of time to have a plan. He comes home at 4:08, packs the backpack, has to figure out how to set the fire, get the clothes in the corner, take them off, switch clothes, make sure I don't have shoes on because I want to make it look like I'm sleeping. But like, that bag, whether he carries it all the time, it doesn't always have that stuff in there. Like, there's no way, and we know that the barrel was just used in Colt's neck, I don't know, like an hour later, or an hour earlier, right? That barrel was used in Colt's neck. You know, that bag, like, he put that bag in there before he pulled the car out of the garage, right? 5 o'clock. This barrel is used at like 3:26, let's say, Dennis Kapoor, right? So like, no matter what he had in that bag normally, he didn't normally have this in the bag. And I bet he didn't normally have the silencer in the bag. And I bet he didn't normally have the passport in the bag. And I bet he didn't have like a ton. Of savings bonds. Caitlin and Marissa Caneiro. Like, he's got a safe in the garage. That big black safe you saw spinning. Like, what the hell are these doing in the backpack? Listen, not the biggest piece of evidence, but like, think about it. What's he thinking? He's thinking that like, listen, if the cops show up, and like, it doesn't look suspicious, you know, like, we had nothing to do with the fire. they're not gonna question us about it. It just looks like, you know, they're gonna start an investigation. Maybe they'll, whatever, look for whatever. But like, if he's got a minute, I mean, think about what he just did. Like, he's got no choice, man. He's using that passport and he's getting the hell out of here. But he never had the opportunity. Because he never left the Ocean Township Police Department. Because we found certain things quickly enough to make it clear that he had something to do with this fire. Now, he wasn't charged with murder right away. I think Detective Zerillo told you that. It's like 8 days later or something. So it's not like they just said, you killed everybody and they charged him. No. But based upon the evidence they uncovered pretty quickly in Ocean, the cameras and all that kind of stuff, and shutting off the cameras, he gets charged with the arson in his own house. I digress a lot, so some of these slides I've probably said ad nauseum to you already. But this is about evidence, and it's not about one little piece of evidence. It's about the combination of a ton of evidence that is all pointing squarely to Paul Caneiro. Talked about that. But I kind of want to close this because, you know, it was brought up in opening statements that there was another brother. It sounded to me, my recollection is that basically they were saying that Corey Caneiro did this, right? Now, I just wanted to put in context, like, that you have not heard anything about anyone entering that house other than him or other than his family in in Ocean. Like, you have not seen other people on camera. You have not seen other evidence. So let's just think about if he's framed. Okay, because again, if what they argued in openings and yesterday in summations is in any way true, he has to be the unluckiest man in the world, because we would have seen this had he not shut off his own cameras. So it's like, kind of shut up his own house. So between 1:31 and 2:08, because remember though, Paul Caneiro told the police he was asleep, right? He told them that he hadn't been in the basement since 4 p.m. the day before. No, that's not true. But between 1:31, that's when he shuts off the cameras in the basement, on camera, and 2:08 when the car leaves. Corey or whoever has to sneak inside 27 Tilton. Now, Caitlin Caneiro told you when she testified, Ms. Wallace asked her, you know, she was the last one to go upstairs that night. I think she said it was about 11:30. Ms. Wallace asked her, were the doors locked? Like the rear doors that you heard a lot about. You heard that they were open, right? Lieutenant Catalona told you about that. How he also told you about how he checked all the doors for visible fingerprints and things like that, and he didn't find any. But those doors, when she went to bed, are unlocked. How is someone getting in this locked house? How is Corey Caneiro getting in it? You didn't hear, like, you heard a lot, like, oh, Corey came over one time or several times with the kids and used the pool when we weren't home. Like, what was that? That's like, hey, Corey's been alone in the home before. He could have done something. But did he? No. Did you hear any of that evidence? No. Is it evidence? No. Okay? They're trying to kind of give that, like, oh, Corey was there alone once. Like, maybe he did it. Okay, so between 1:31 when we know he's awake, okay, last time, like, you see him awake because it's the last time a camera's on. Between that time and 2:08, Paul's got to go to bed, fall asleep, and someone's got to figure out how the hell to get into that house. Several of the doors have chimes, right? You know, you heard about the soundproofing. I've never heard that before, but you heard it. I guess there were some soundproof rooms. That's convenient now, but it is what it is. Corey or whoever's now also got to get in the house. He's got to go down to the basement. He's got to figure out where to, I guess, find a key or a combination to the lock for the safe with the guns. Because he's got to get the gun, right? Got to get the gun, got to get the Fiocchi ammunition. He's got to find the key to the Macan, right? I mean, I think it's safe to assume when you have a loaner car, I think he only had it for a couple days. That was I knew it was a short period of time, but one of his daughters said that. Like, anybody get a loaner car when their car's getting serviced and get more than one key? But it's not, you're buying the car. You're not buying the car. They're giving you one key. This is the Audi key, but it's one key. Okay, so he's got to find the key. He then has to go back outside quietly, get in the car, drive to Colts Neck, do everything he did in Colts Neck, take the panel off, disable the generator, no testimony that anyone other than, not even Ben kind of said it, who was like aware of everything, but like the only person you ever heard about any knowledge about the generator and all that electricity and stuff in the basement is Paul Caneiro. But whoever goes to Colts Neck, they got to rip the panel off, disable the generator, they got to shoot Keith with, like, I mean, there's no other way to explain it. You saw the photos. I got one right here when we talk about Keith. Like, he's got one shot in the back, comes out the stomach, through his hand. Every other gunshot is here up. I mean, that's a guy, that's a shooter who goes to gun ranges. That's a shooter who's got multiple guns. That's a shooter who practices. That's a guy who's got, you know, things in the backpack. One of these, I think it's this one. The Mantis training system in the backpack in the Cayenne with the barrel and the silencer. Those are accurate shots. They're like crazy accurate shots. And that's like a guy who's got targets hanging in his basement next to the rest of his guns in his gun locker. That is like marksmanship. You don't need a laser. A laser target's only for practice, not the real thing. He's got to cut the ONT line in the basement. He's got to go back to Tilden. He's got to park the Macan. He's got to, again, get back in the house quietly when Marissa, Caitlin, Susan, and I guess Paul are all asleep in the house. That person then has to go back down to the basement, take the clothes off, stick them in the area where we would have seen them stick it, had the camera not been shut off. They had to go over by the gun safe. I guess now they must have the key or the combination at this point because they got it out the first time. But now they got to get the gun back in there. They got to take the barrel out. They got to know how to take the barrel out. Sergeant Clayton told you it's not complicated. I mean, I don't have a gun, so I don't. I've heard how you do it. You just pop the slide off, put the barrel in, take the barrel out, whatever. But they got to do that, and they got to have a reason to do that, which is very inconsistent with what we're talking about, setting someone up. And again, they'd be doing all this by that locker in that gun area with the cleaners and all that stuff. They'd be doing it in a place where they should have been on camera, but they weren't because of him. So he's either guilty of murder or he's the unluckiest man in the world. Person then has to get back out of the house, set the fire at 4:30. And then interestingly, I said it yesterday, but I don't know how the guys, the mystery guys that are at the house at 4:30, if that time's accurate, are still there at 5:02, 5:01 and change when that second blaze starts in the garage area by the driveway. Like 32 minutes these guys are going to stick around? That's about as dumb as knocking on the door after you set fire to a house. It doesn't make any sense. It's just a way to try to figure out a way to say that despite the evidence all pointing to me and all being extremely devastating, hey, I got set up. But all these steps, set fire to the house, put Paul's backpack not into the Macan, but into the Cayenne in the garage. And again, third place, we should have seen that backpack go into the Cayenne because it's in the garage and you saw it when he shut off the cameras. Unluckiest man in the world. And then Corey's got to go back before Caitlin calls and his wife gives him the phone and they speak before he comes over and takes him out for bagels. All these things would have had to happen. And he's only been asleep for what? I mean, he's in the basement at 1:31. Like, how quickly could Paul Caneiro have gone upstairs and gone to bed? Like what? I mean, minimum, he's gotta go upstairs, he's gotta lie down. No matter how tired it is, it takes a couple minutes. Like, within 20 minutes of that, all of a sudden, someone's sneaking into the basement, and taking the gun and then leaving and then coming back and somehow getting in without serving anyone, without the dogs barking, the doors are locked, etc. And again, I didn't show this yesterday, I skipped past it by accident, but like, in the context of where Mr. Caneiro is at 1:31, and he's not sleeping, within a few minutes of this, someone else has got to sneak down here, right? And get that gun right out of here. Right out of here. A locked, you saw that big lock, there's pictures, you'll have it, take a look. I forget what the way Catalan described it, but it's like, there's some like twisting part of it. It's like, it's a strong lock. He had to use bolt cutters to cut it off. But we would have seen it. If someone else did it, we would have seen it. But we didn't, because it was him. And that's why he shut the camera. We talked about that. Why would you swap the barrel? Why would you plant the blood on the evidence in the defendant's basement and then try to destroy it if you wanted to set someone up? It just doesn't make any sense. It's like, I hate this analogy, a lot of prosecutors use this analogy, it's like another thing I said I never do, but it's like the kid caught with their hand in the cookie jar, right? You know, mom walks in and catches the kid in the kitchen, he's got his hand in the cookie jar, he's got some crumbs on him, and all of a sudden his mom's like, "What are you doing, Paul?" And he goes, "It was Corey." That's really what we're talking about here. Follow the evidence. Follow the evidence. You know, it's implausible to understand how someone gets Mr. Caneiro's DNA on the inside of his jeans and in other places that we've talked about. Now, we're getting there. And obviously, you probably all recall video that was ultimately obtained from the Wise cameras at Keith's house. Same grouping of cameras where we saw the conversation in the office and in the kitchen. This is the garage north camera, and obviously this is we played about 16 minutes of video, 2:35 to 2:51, and you see someone appear, right, and then you hear that metallic noises as the person's ripping the panel out or trying to, and it's taking time. You see the person go that way. But we're gonna watch a portion. See the glove there? Black glove. Going back towards the generator. You just saw a small portion. There's about 15 minutes. You know, at times the light comes on, light comes off. He goes through. He goes over by the generator. That's where he's kind of over by the generator, over here. But he's not really gone very long because we know it's just a switch. Because if you know where it is, you just shut the auto on-off switch off, right? There's a lot of talk about measuring this. Like, yeah, you could measure this, right? You could see where that third panel is and how tall it is, right? But the problem with that is that there's no way to really tell because this camera's at an angle. Like, we're not shooting straight, right? So there's no way to tell or estimate the size of that person, I would submit to you. I would submit to you that what we're gonna look at here You slow it down, you can pause it, you can do whatever you want. But this person, regardless, and I know it's paused here, but if you watch it, feel free to watch it again. This person's got hair, right? Hair. And they're wearing black nitrile gloves. And that's entirely consistent with all the evidence. Now, obviously, nobody is identifying that person, right? It's impossible. But when you look at all the other evidence, in his car that's driving on Willowbrook just a little bit earlier, and then parking, out here, right? Out here past the solar panels, either on that driveway or in that little opening on the grass, walks right up to this area, right? And remember, when we look out here, this is just a little patio here, and this is exactly where we find the shell casings. So he shuts off the generator, shuts off the electric. He actually doesn't even shut off the solar panels, which shows you that you kind of have to know the house, right? Because what you found out about the solar panel array is that it's not a backup source of power. And I don't know, I'm no electrician, but I would have thought that the solar panel might have done something when the power goes out, but it actually doesn't. And really the only people that know that are the people that were there when it was installed and the house was being built. Paul Caneiro, Keith Caneiro. So you wonder why that wasn't shut off, because it didn't need to be. But when you think about the evidence in this case, and I know hair is it's a little fact, it's just a little thing, right? But that's not Corey Caneiro. That's not Keith Caneiro in the middle of the night either, because they're both bald. And these gloves right here, Paul Caneiro's DNA on them. Just showed them to you. So it's we can't tell you everything. I wish maybe we would have saw something out here at around 3:42 with someone leaving the house, right? But we can't because he shut the power off. He shut the power off. Shut it off in Ocean, and he shut it off in Colts Neck. And when you do that, it makes you look really guilty. And I'd submit to you, it makes it look bad when you're trying to argue that we didn't do this or we didn't find this. Because we had no ability after 251 to see anything. We'll talk about that next week. Shutting off the camera, video from your rear neighbor, other surveillance cameras on tilt, barrel in the bag with the silencer, DNA in your basement, right by the point of origin. No, I'm surprised I haven't said this yet, but sloppy, right? Smart tech guy who just killed his niece and nephew, and he's really just trying to figure out what the hell to do. Get rid of the evidence. Should have torched it directly, right? Nothing you can do about the gun, because you can't hide the gun because it's registered, right? We talked about that yesterday. But you should have just torched it directly. Torched it. Put it outside. One would have thought, though, setting that fire outside that window, with the window open and pointing right into where this stuff's found, it should have been destroyed. Again, Ocean Township Fire Department really screwed Mr. Caneiro. That was the plan. It just didn't work. Talk about the no shoes, his daughter said the other day that no one else had shoes on other than their mom. I didn't see that in the DVR, but in the body-worn cameras. But regardless, I said it probably twice yesterday. He's got time to go get it. He's got time to go back in the house. He comes out, fuck, I hit my hand, or whatever it is. Even Caitlin Caneiro acknowledged that. She didn't actually see her dad hit his hand. She heard him say it. I personally, I'm sorry. I don't. He either was saying it to try to make his daughter think he hit his hand, because he's got that hand injury, and that hand injury comes from Colts Neck. I'm sorry. There's no way that hand injury happened fleeing a fire, which, when they fled the fire, wasn't even that bad yet. There's some smoke, there's no flames. They're going down the stairs, they're leaving, not saying it's not alarming, but that hand injury, there's no other way to look at it other than it's gotta be from Sophia Caneiro. 17 sharp force injuries. And then Dr. Zhang told you about the blunt force injuries. He's got gloves on, right? But get the hell out of that hand somehow. But here, like we talk about, this is the mudroom, 27 Tilden. I won't belabor this, but this is the mudroom, and this is what you pass as you go into the garage to get the Cayenne to pull it out. I mean, here you just have like a pile of stuff, a pile of shoes. The next picture, there's other shoes. Like, I would suggest to you, in combination with all the evidence, is that like not wearing shoes that morning was just like a really trying way too hard to make it look like you were sleeping and you weren't in Colts Neck killing everybody. That's what that looks like to me. No coincidence. Again, when we talk about what cameras would have shown, this is the kitchen. This is the Wise camera on the counter at 15 Willowbrook, right next to Sophia's picture. Staring right out over here, exactly where Jesse is found lying on the floor. Jesse, lying on the floor. These are the kitchen cabinets, the jury box. It's lying right here. What's here? What's here? The mudroom, the garage, the door with the Nest cam. Freedom. Life. He was so freaking close to the outside. But power was cut. The Nest camera, I'll talk about it quickly. They kept showing it during cross-examination. That picture of the Nest cam, right? Of what, they just kept showing it. And then all of a sudden, Lieutenant Petrozello testified. And then, he got asked about it. And it was like, oh, there's actually, an explanation, right? The Nest camera, so this is the door next to the garage. Okay, well, I think it's right here. It's the door next to the garage. So the garage is right over here. This is the front door, right? There's a bunch of video from Wise with people coming in the garage. That's kind of what they did. They pulled their cars in the garage. So I'd submit to you that this door didn't really get used very much. But what this picture actually is the exact same picture, notifications at Nest to P. Caneiro in Ocean. Your cameras just got shut off. This is what it showed. This is a notification at 2:52 in the morning to Keith Caneiro saying, your Nest camera is off. We know why it's off, because the panel just got ripped off and the generator's off. So the camera shuts off at 2:52 a.m. Lord only knows what this camera would have showed. But he cut the power. So I don't know what I don't understand what the point of this picture is. They argue to you that Petrozello should have followed up. He told you he got a communications data warrant, which is a search warrant for companies like electronic providers, service providers, like Nest. And he requested the records for November 19th, November 20th, because really that's what else is relevant. And what he got back from Nest was that there was no footage. There were no activations. They're acting like this is an activation on the 20th. It's not an activation. This didn't come on because someone's at the door. It came on, or it gets emailed to him saying, this is what your camera looked like when it was cut. It's not an activation. It's a notification. Just like Paul Caneiro's. Like the one picture in Mr. Caneiro's basement, when he cuts the power, he's standing by the guns, in the storage locker. So he's in the picture. The other one, he's not actually in the picture when it gets unplugged. I don't know if they're both unplugged from the same place and he's only in one picture and not the other. But they're right next to each other, so he's there. But this is nothing. If there was video at there was an activation at, let's say, 2:45, we would have got it from Nest, but there wasn't any, because no one was in this area. He's over on the other side of the garage, ripping the panel off. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is just confirming, all it is. It's confirming that the power was disconnected at 2:51, 2:52, just like that Wise camera showed you. Because kind of like the DVR in the garage, it's like, he's there, it's 2:51 and change, and all of a sudden, camera's off. Coincides with the noise and the jiggling and the ripping of the panel and the door on the ground, right? And the meter on the floor.
Can I see the attorneys for a second?